To get into the multifamily space, you either need to bring, I call it the check equity or the sweat equity. You have $20,000 to $30,000 liquid right now that you could invest into a deal if you found it tomorrow.
Real estate is pretty simple. It's all about relationships, getting in front of the right people. When you're trying to find a buyer for a property, we start looking at which LLCs are coming up multiple times, and then you just pick up the phone and call.
So I'm sitting there, I got $6.5 million of investor money on my shoulders, and it's got to get done. I said, it's not going to fail. We're going to make it happen.
It's like no one's going to come save you.
No one's coming to save you, man.
And so you just got to figure it out. Welcome back to the Wealthy Business Podcast. I'm your host, Javi Chavez, COO of 5 7- to 8-figure businesses. So on this episode, if you're interested in multifamily at all, getting into real estate, going out, getting your first deal or scaling to, 685 units? This is your guy. So today I have Justin on the podcast. Justin, like I mentioned, he has already amassed over 685 rental properties, mostly through multifamily syndications. And for somebody who's just starting out, how do I buy my first multifamily deal?
Yeah, I mean, to get into the multifamily space, you either need to bring, I call it the check equity or the sweat equity, right, to the table. Some people can do both, but if you don't have the check equity and the cash to bring in it, then you have to have the knowledge to be able to bring to the table. That's very valuable for somebody that maybe has capital. So, to find multifamily deals, you either go direct to the seller, someone like me that owns them, or direct to the brokers who have access to them. Because you got to find the good deals. I mean, that's step number one.
So, most people that are probably listening to this podcast don't have a ton of capital to get started. So how would somebody implement like the sweat equity portion? Like, where am I going to look to find these multifamily properties?
Yeah, so if you, and I always tell people when you're getting started, start in the 10 to 30 unit space, so under 50 units, because you're dealing with mom and pop brokers, mom and pop agents, mom and pop sellers. They'll deal with newbies. They'll deal with people that don't have a lot of capital. The lenders will actually call you back. The brokers will call you back. You're just dealing in a space where people expect newer people.
Got it.
So you want to start there, 10 to 30 units for your first one. And in that size, you can raise capital because there's enough zeros in it where it makes sense for investors to come into your deals too. To where now maybe you can bring $15,000 to $30,000 out of pocket and have control of a $2 million multifamily deal.
So elaborate on that. So I just need to come up with like 10 to 15 grand. How would I get into a multi-million-dollar deal at that point?
Let me give you a perfect example. Our first syndication was a 27 unit in Kansas City, Missouri, and that was in 2018. It was a $2 million deal, put about $300,000 in renovation to it, and then another 100 and something thousand in closing costs. So we're all in $2 million and change. We brought in about $65,000. So because we had to raise, I think, a total of 800 grand for that deal.
Got it.
We brought in I brought in 65K, like physically into the deal. Raised the difference, which was 700 and something thousand. I got an acquisition fee though for bringing that deal together, about 45 grand. So my out-of-pocket was 20K, right? And now I had control of a 27-unit multifamily deal in Kansas City, Missouri, right?
That's awesome.
And so that's how you would take something like that down. Getting the loan is the easiest part, because if the deal makes financial sense, the lenders are underwriting the property, not you. So your credit score is not nearly as important. I mean, as long as you have in the 600s, you can probably get a loan. And as long as you're not a fraud, you can probably get a loan. And people will invest with you. I mean, if the deal makes sense, and if you have a pitch deck that explains what the deal is reasonably well, and people like and trust you, like the money will find itself.
For sure, and that's what we tell people in the single family space too. It's like if you have a good deal, the money's the easiest part to get.
If you have a shitty deal, you're not raising any money.
Of course.
People are like, I don't know people. I don't know friends and family. I don't know anybody with money. I said, trust me. Go secure a deal that makes financial sense. And when it does, the money will find you, because it always will. Because everybody wants to invest in real estate. That's not your problem. Everybody wants to. Go find me somebody. Go talk to anybody in the street. Do you like to invest in real estate? Yeah, if I had the money. Or yeah, if I had a deal. Everybody wants to. That's not your problem. It's just, do you have a deal that makes sense? And do they like you and trust you?
Yep. So step one, Are there any tools or any like platforms that you guys use to like find these deals, or are we just going like straight, Zillow multifamily type stuff?
No, yeah. So we like I said, there's two methods to find. I call it pre-market or off-market deals.
Yep.
Either direct to broker or direct to seller. Unless you have a ton of time and money, take the direct to seller approach out when you're starting. So go direct to broker. And how do you find these brokers? Go to Crexy.com. Go find all the deals that they're marketing on market. Okay, those ones don't make any sense. That's not the problem. They're totally overpriced. They don't make any sense. But you see who's doing deals in the marketplace that you're like. So give you an example. How did I find that 27 in Kansas City? I went on Crexy.com. I looked at properties in Kansas City. I took the top 3 brokers that were doing the most deals of the on market, called them up, said, hey, this is Justin with the Brennan Group. I'm going to be coming into Kansas City in a couple of weeks. I'm looking at some properties. I like this one. Tell me the information, the status, what's going on with it. And you could do the whole kit and caboodle, song and dance. And then I did that with 2 other brokers, and I set up tours. And I said, I don't care if the deals don't make sense or not. I'm going to go there. I'm going to meet them, get belly to belly, eyeball to eyeball. And then in that conversation, hey, John, look, doesn't look like this deal is going to make sense, but I'm sure you have some other deals, some stuff that's going to come to market soon, pre-market stuff. Like, can I get access to those? Because we're going to buy, and I'd love to buy through you. And then that's how you begin to build the rapport. And then you get into their pre-market database. Because if you take all the properties, only the ones that are on the websites, it only represents about 40% of the actual inventory. 60% is pre-market or more, or more. And that's where the real deals trade. But then people ask, well, how do I get access to them? Well, you have to use the on to get to the off.
Yeah.
So you leverage the on to get to the off, and you will get those deals.
Yeah, and it's honestly like, correct me if I'm wrong, but real estate is pretty simple. Like, especially when it comes to like whether it be single family, multifamily, it's all about relationships, getting in front of somebody, getting in front of the right people. So just like you did, what we tell our students to do when it comes to like single family homes, it's like when you're trying to find a buyer for a property, same thing. We have our softwares. We start looking at which LLCs are coming up multiple times. Then you should pick up the phone and call.
Because those guys are transacting the most.
Exactly. They're doing the most deals. And so we're like, okay, like this, 123 LLC is, doing 10 deals in the last 6 months. They're probably one of the bigger buyers.
They're buyers right now.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
And so that's like one of the strategies that we use for single family.
Do you use like Investor Lift and stuff like that?
Well, yeah, Investor Lift's like $30,000.
Okay.
And so for the starter investor, they wouldn't have access to it, but we do. Okay. So we use that.
And that's to buy or to sell?
To sell.
To sell.
So basically, because we buy houses nationwide now, right? Yeah. So we'll go in, let's say in Illinois, right? Like we get a property in Chicago, we lock it up, and then we put it on Investor Lift for people to like see the deal.
Yep.
Now that's like more of like a inbound approach.
Yeah, now, wholesale approach? Or?
Yeah, okay. Yeah. So we're wholesaling the deal. But if we can't, for whatever reason, there's not a lot of interest, then at that point we have our own software, and there's a lot of them out there. There's PropStream, Batch Leads. We have our own called Wealthy Deals, where we will then go into an area, just like I mentioned, and we'll type in the zip code. Hey, these are the top 5, 6 buyers in the zip code. And then we're going to reach out to them and go close those deals. But it also works on the front end too with like MLS acquisitions. So one of our coaches, they're called the Boakley Brothers. They just do on market stuff, right? So they just reach out to a ton of agents. Hey, same thing you were mentioning. Hey, like I like this. I see you have this house listed. This one probably doesn't make sense for us, but do you have any others?
Yeah.
Like we'll buy. We close quick.
They're just getting on the forefront.
Exactly. Yeah. Just because they're going to be top of mind. So even if there's not a deal right now,
there
will be. And as long as you are top of mind, you're going to be one of the first people they reach out to, and that's how you close the deals. So for us, I mean, it's the more people that I interview and the more people that like I talk to across various different aspects, not just in real estate, but
still people to people, isn't it?
Yeah, it's just people to people.
I mean, softwares can help, and they do.
For sure.
And just
it helps
taking a ton of data down, but it's still a belly to belly.
Yeah, and I think it always will be. And obviously, like you can still,
But
call.
that's what people love about real estate. It's tangible, right? When you talk to any investors, any people that are in other asset classes, when it push comes to shove, they say, you know what I love about real estate, man? I can drive down the street and I can touch it. I can see the stucco. I can see where my money's at. It's in that building.
Yeah.
Like that's what people love about real estate at the end of the day. And people have to live somewhere. They either rent or they buy. Right? Rent or own. So I love that.
And not making any more of it, so I get it. And so like so today, I know you mentioned the 680 units. What types of deals are you guys looking at now?
Everything we're going after now, depending on the market, let's say it's in the outside of the coastal markets, is going to be 150 units or more, because that's where it starts to make economies of scale sense, to have on-site management, on-site systems, operations where the property is completely self-contained. Because using off-site management's fine when you're getting started, but once you get going, you realize, hey, how important it is. Plus, there's more zeros go around. I realized it's easier to raise money for a 150 unit deal, which blew me away. I mean, when I was talking with some private equity guys.
So expand on that really quick. So I think a lot of people like want to start small, but it does seem like the bigger that we go, again, the easier the money flows. So like, why do you think that is?
There's economies of scale in the money, and the money chases more zeros. So you can have more, people cutting into the pie per se. So let's take like private equity guys and these guys that want to put out big checks. Well, it doesn't make sense for them to put out a $3 million check. I mean, I had this phone call with these guys last year, and they're like, Justin, like, we love the deal, we love you, but if you have a deal where we can put 5 or 10 million, like, we're all in. But I said, wait, let me get this under. I'm only asking for 3 million, and you won't give me that. But if I ask for 10 million, you'll give me that? They're like, all day long.
It's crazy.
I'm like, what the?
But it makes sense, if they're like from the time, energy, money perspective, right? Like it's just to dedicate that much time and effort to like look at a deal or whatever. It's just easier for them probably to deploy in another. So
you guys
deal.
are doing wholesaling, flipping. Obviously, Ryan, you guys have the coaching space and everything with that. Has it changed? I mean,
for sure.
Are you seeing changes in that industry?
For sure. It changes almost every year. Well, not every year, but typically it's like a 2-year cycle where things really work, and then we got to slightly shift our strategy, right? So to backtrack, for probably the first 7-8 years of the business, all we did was flip houses. We wholesaled here and there, but it wasn't our main strategy. We were predominantly flip, and the way we would get our deals, first it started on the MLS. So we would just talk to wholesalers and buy deals straight on the MLS. Then it developed into direct to seller. So it was cold call text. At this time, it's probably 2018 to 2020. Those were like our main strategies. We're cold call and text before all the regulation kind of came. So it was very easy to get deals that way. Then we started running TV commercials. And so that was
the infamous Ryan TV commercials.
I want to buy your house. It was a picture of the White House and all kinds of stuff. So it was a good time. So we did that for 4 years, and then we shifted recently to Facebook. So we pretty much only do Facebook and PPC.
And there's sellers on Facebook?
Yeah, that's like for the entire year, all we've done is just Facebook and a little bit of last year. Facebook, and then we do. So for example, in the summer months, we'll spend about 40 grand a month on Facebook, and then about 10 grand on PPC.
Okay.
So about 50 grand total goes towards our marketing budget.
Yeah.
And the trade-off that you have, it's either volume, which you get on Facebook, more at bats, or with like TV or PPC, you're going to get less of them, but they are typically
higher quality.
Higher quality, because the person who's like higher intent, searching sell my house Vegas, like that person is like ready to go. Right. On Facebook, you're banking on them like seeing it a few times.
Being in the algorithm, right?
Exactly. Right. And so that's the biggest difference. But for example, in Vegas, a PPC lead costs $600 to $800. Okay. So that's an expensive phone call.
Yeah, it is. You better close that shit.
Exactly. So would I rather have that, or in Vegas it's $150 to $200 per lead for a Facebook ad. Right. Okay. So do I have a better chance of closing 1 in 5 or 1 for 1? So that's kind of the thought process behind it. And we've seen a ton of success. And then we rolled it out to our students.
Where are you seeing like the most in? Is it the Facebook and ads and stuff like that right now?
I mean, that's the majority of our budget. That's how we get most of our deals. And the PPC is just kind of like retargeting. Yeah,
because I was looking at you guys' lead kitchen.
Yeah.
I was, because I know, I remember Kate showed me this.
Yeah.
She's like, hey, look, Ryan's dressed up in a chef's outfit. Check this out.
Yeah.
I was like, that's pretty cool. That's creative.
Yeah,
It's
we're
creative
cooking
as
up the
hell.
leads.
I love it.
And then that's kind of like turned into a bunch of other products that we've then rolled out. So Lead Kitchen's a kind of our highest level one.
Okay.
Right. We're an agency. We'll run your ads in your market.
Okay.
So we've done land. We haven't done multifamily yet, but we predominantly do single family homes.
Okay.
So San Diego, you want to run ads, we'll run ads in your area. We charge a retainer, and then you pay for the ad spend. But it's Ryan's face, Ryan's ads, because we just know they work.
Sure.
Right. Then what we found was that's a premium product. You got to have like $9,000 a month to be able to spend between the retainer and.
And you probably have to run it for at least 3 to 4 months to start.
Exactly. So you're looking at probably like a $30,000-$40,000 commitment. Not everyone's financially qualified for that. So we were getting a lot of like overflow leads, and we were already running nationwide leads anyway. Like, well, why don't we just put these together in like packs of 50 and sell them? Because they're hot leads. They're better than cold call and text, and that's what most wholesalers and most coaches these days, that's what they tell your students to do. It's, hey, go find a list of tax defaults or foreclosures and then start cold calling, which is just not effective in 2025, or 2024.
That's archaic, man.
Yeah, it's tough.
Yeah.
So for us, we're like, all right, well, we were already running this playbook anyway. We're already getting leads for ourselves. It's working. Why don't we just give it to our students? So that's been the big shift for us on the coaching side. Is now we're just a service provider. Provide you with leads, CRM, software, tools, and you'll have everything you need to run your business, and you'll get it for $1,000 a month. So
that's pretty
good deal.
Pretty decent deal.
Yeah, and then obviously we have the higher tiers, right? So 2,500, you get different types of leads, and then at the Lead Kitchen level, they're exclusive to you. So that's kind of where we're at today. But back to your question before about like what we're doing real estate wise.
Yeah.
We're pretty much all wholesale these days, just because again it's expensive. At one point, we would have like 50 to 70 house flips going on.
Yeah.
I mean, that's millions and millions of dollars of risk that we were personally on the hook for.
Yep.
So would we do that, or could we just pretty much do everything with no risk, just pushing paper?
Sure.
So we'll still flip when it makes sense. If we do,
But you get to see all the deals too. I mean, you get to cherry pick.
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah, and that's the thing. So our thing is like it has to basically 3x on a flip versus a wholesale. So if we're gonna make 20 grand wholesaling it or 30 grand flipping it, we'd rather just wholesale it all day. It makes more sense.
Gotcha.
Because we'll just do volume and move on to the next one. So that's what's been working for us. In a year or two, maybe interest rates go down and things pencil out again, and we'll start flipping. So we're not married to any strategy.
Is it because the interest rates are but interest rates on hard money are what, 9,
I mean, they're
10%?
pretty much the same. Yeah, it's 9-10%.
Is it more of the back end?
Yeah, it's the seller.
Gotcha.
I'm sorry, the buyer on the back end.
The back end.
Yeah, because like the real estate market isn't as
hot
as it was.
Gotcha.
So we'd rather, go pass off a deal, let a mom and pop flip that house, and go be okay with the type of margins.
Yeah, that are maybe doing a dozen flips a year versus trying to do 50 a month.
Exactly. So at scale, it's tough to do, and so that's kind of where we're at today. Okay. So I know you got coaching going on. So tell me about that.
Yeah, I mean that kind of came about organically. It's probably been 18 months now. Mm-hmm. We were kind of chatting about it, but it started with a lot of people seeing what I was doing, and then they were approaching me and coming over and saying, "Hey, like, can you teach this multifamily stuff? Like, we like it, and I'm interested, but I don't know where to start." So I said, well, let me think about that because I didn't really have a lot of time. Mm-hmm. But then we started with like on-demand stuff. We just put some on-demand courses online. People could take at their own pace and stuff, and people loved it. And they said, "Great, like we love it, but like I'm
now
looking."
What?
Well, I'm looking for more hand-holding, right? I want more like mentorship, like hand-holding. I said, well, I don't have time for like one-on-one mentorships. But what we did do, because I sat down with people that had kind of been in the space a little bit, and I said, what I don't want to be is I don't just want to be a guru coach selling mentorships and courses, and like that's my thing. Mm-hmm. I said, what I do want is I want to find a way, how can we create a win-win? Where we have a community where people are doing deals together, they're partnering, they're collaborating on capital, finance, like everything, and we're teaching at the same time. So people are learning how to do it, they're executing, they're getting in their first, second, third deals, 10 to 30 unit deals, and now they want to grow and scale more. So what do? They come back in, they say, listen, I found this 80 unit, Justin, like you said you were talking about partnering. Like, I can't take it down alone. Let's do it together. And so that's how it helps our portfolio grow, because now we can go in similar to what like Pace Morby's done for the creative financing side, is he's gone out there and like grown an amazing community and then taken his portfolio from X to like X plus, because people are bringing him deals that he otherwise would never see. And then if he can partner with them, great. If he can buy them from them, great. Either way, now he's got like a lead flow, but he's also helping them at the same time. Does that make sense?
100%. No, it's great.
And that's kind of my vision behind it, is kind of do the Pace Morby, but for multifamily.
No, I think
and
it's
that
great.
concept, because it's just for me, like I don't just want to be the guru, selling
Well,
stuff.
and the big concept that I've realized over this last year is that coaching should just be your lead magnet. Meaning, for you, it's you get people in, they join the community, and then they end up doing deals with you, right? So like, it starts here, but then it goes deeper and deeper into the funnel.
Yeah.
So whether it be doing deals, I mean, for us, it's been a big pipeline for employees. Like I started as a student. That's how Ryan found me.
Yeah. How did you?
Yeah.
I want to know your story, man.
Yeah. So basically, it's 2020. My background's like software sales.
Okay.
So I was doing that for a while. Finally had a little money in my pocket for the first time. And I was like, dude, I want to get into real estate. And I was like, what should I do?
Like
And
everybody out there watching.
yeah. See, just like you mentioned earlier, right? You asked somebody on the street, like, would you want to be in real estate? Yeah. So
Everybody wants to invest in real estate.
Of course.
It's never your problem.
Yeah, so I had just been like, you hear about it. I think I had already read Rich Dad Poor Dad at some point, but I wasn't ready to do anything. I probably read it early 20s. But anyway, so that kind of stuck with me. I was just thinking about what I'm going to do, so naturally I procrastinate and download TikTok. And so that's when TikTok...
Sitting there,
scrolling.
like Kate over here, just swoosh, swoosh, swoosh,
Yep.
swoosh.
So that was when TikTok was like starting to really blow up, and I find this guy Ryan, pointing at things, doing little dance videos. His content was very different than what it is today.
Okay.
And anyway, so I find out he has a coaching program. I probably look at the website like 5 different times, just like waiting to see if there's any new information. I book a call, and then I invested. At the time, it was like 20 grand. It was very different in the terms of the coaching to how it is now, but I learned how to wholesale, so I did that in San Diego. So was doing that for probably 2 years. Okay. Did pretty well, made good money part-time, and then still had my full-time job. 2022 rolls around. By that time, Ryan had built a personal relationship. He was coming to San Diego for some speaking engagement. So what Ryan typically does is he will
Speak in golf.
And I also became his Uber for the week.
Oh, that's hilarious.
Well, because that's what he does. And I've traveled now with him, and that's what he actually
personal Uber.
Yeah,
he's got it all built in.
Yeah, and obviously, like I'm a student. I like Ryan, and I'm like, yeah, I get to hang out with Ryan.
I'm gonna pick your brain for a weekend.
Yeah, but I didn't know about the Uber part until later. He's like, oh, by the way, can you like take me around? And I was like,
and by the way, I'm gonna sit in the back seat, Rich. You're right.
I was like, I see how this transaction's going down. Right. But anyway, I'm still happy to do it. We go on the golf course. I'm kind of just talking about where I'm at. I'm like, hey, dude, I like real estate. I'm not super passionate about it. I really like the business aspect. And so, like, what do I do? I could, but at this time, I'm doing, both at a B+, right? Okay. Maybe, a B, right? So, how do I go all in on one thing? Should it be business or should it be real estate? And at the time, he was building out the parent company. So, neither of us were looking for, I wasn't looking for a job. He wasn't looking to hire me.
Pineda Companies.
Pineda Companies.
Okay,
so
gotcha.
That didn't exist yet. Okay. He was in the makings of building it.
Okay.
So he's like, hey, man, well, I'm building out our parent company. You should come be our sales manager. Gotcha. So that was Friday. Saturday, he sends me a text message offer. Monday, I quit my job. And then Wednesday, I'm working for Ryan. And then that was it.
Rock and roll, baby.
Yeah.
San Diego to Vegas.
Yeah, so I was...
Kind of what I do a decent amount right now.
Yeah, now you're splitting time. I want to talk about that later. But yeah, I worked remote for the first 6 months. And then, as Ryan does, he slowly just whittles you down. It's like, you should move to Vegas.
He's digging in.
You should move to Vegas. Daggers. And I was like, dude, I love San Diego. I'm not going to move to Vegas. It's like, dude, it's a big change. I'm sure you guys have talked about it. I miss San Diego every day. I love the opportunity, and I'm happy I'm here. But I do miss San Diego.
Sure.
And he was how he finally got me was like, hey, I got a condo, stay in it, 6 months, see what happens.
Sure.
And I was
you don't have to commit.
Yeah.
We're going to date. We're not going to get married yet.
Yeah, I was like, all right, that's fair. Like, I'll come out, I'll see how it is. And fast forward 3 years later, I'm married and have a baby on the way, and I'm pretty deeply.
Yeah, we'll get into that
here.
later too.
Yeah, I'm pretty deeply planted here.
Congratulations,
in Vegas,
by the way.
Thank you.
What's name?
Santana.
Santana. Beautiful name.
Thank you. Yeah, Santana Drew. I needed something that sounded good with Chavez as the last name, and I was like, Santana Chavez sounds cool.
That does sound good.
Hopefully, like that, no one's gonna bully a Santana. So
no, I mean, the minute you say that, I think Carlos Santana.
I know.
Right?
Well, it's funny because not to call you old.
Yeah.
But
well, listen, Javi, it's my birthday tomorrow, so we can talk about this.
Yeah,
okay?
not a day over 25, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
40 young.
Yeah, but it's like anybody like I would call like elder millennial Gen X.
Yeah.
They say that. Say, I think of Carlos Santana.
Well,
but,
he's
I mean,
legend.
you couldn't. Yeah. So, but anyway, so I think it's a cool name. So, it's interesting. We're 7 months deep. So,
Ooh, it's coming.
it's coming. It's coming.
Marinating.
Soon. Yeah. So,
nesting going on yet?
Well, we're moving into. Right now we're in a condo. So we're in a two bedroom, 2-bath condo.
Yep.
We're moving January 1 into like a 4-bedroom.
Okay.
So that's when all the nesting will take place. Like we had our baby shower and like my upstairs office is filled with boxes and stuff that I don't want to take home because I'm like, well, what am I going to do with it? So it's been cool.
Yeah, that's amazing, exciting. It's one of the hardest things you'll ever do that you love to do. That I can tell you.
Yeah. So how do you balance being a dad and then also running these businesses?
Great question, Javi. It's not easy. That I can tell you. Being an entrepreneur, right? Mm-hmm. You're driven, you're focused. But every day, every week is a grind. I mean, I think it was Cody Sanchez. I heard her say one time, she's like, anybody that comes on video or talks to you and says that, entrepreneurship's just grand. Every day is just peachy.
Oh yeah, no way.
Dude, you're getting your nuts kicked in every day, every way. And so, you have good days, bad days. Some days you're making money. Some days you're losing your ass. Mm-hmm. But I will say this, enjoy the process. Gratitude is everything. Mm-hmm. Being as positive as you can, even in the midst of rain and showers. But yeah, it's hard. I mean, you got 2 beautiful kids, 8 and 10 years old, and then now kind of finding ways to mimic and blend them with another 8 and 10-year-old. So 11.
Oh. It's okay, that's like the same.
But yeah, it's hard because you got to run businesses, so that takes a lot of time. It's not a 9 to 5. Mm-hmm. I have my son all the time kind of ask me, when's your calls? When are you doing this? Like, when can you get off this? When can you,
and
do this?
And you work from home, right? Or do you have an office?
Yeah, we have an office, but both, right? You have an office, home office, and an actual office. But I will say this, and in a weird way, obviously being divorced, they do spend half the time with mom. So I will tell you this, when I don't have them, it's laser on.
For sure.
Because I have that window of time. And then obviously when they're with me, I try and be as present as I can. Mm-hmm.
So when
I'm picking them up from school, I'm taking them to soccer games and stuff because I want to be present, when I have them.
Yeah, and what a benefit it is that you've built a business that you can pick them up from school, take them to soccer games.
I mean, I hear this all the time from you. I'm sure you guys do too, from people that are wanting to get out of that 9 to 5 rat race and maybe not work for the man per se. That they want more freedom and time, and so real estate can be an avenue for them. But they also need to understand that, in order for you to get that freedom and time, it's going to take effort up front, right? There's no get-rich-quick schemes unless you're winning the lotto.
For sure.
So you do have to give that energy up front, but it will pay its dividends down the road.
And how big is the team right now, like just across the board?
Yeah, so on the multifamily side, I mean, most of our stuff is, I wouldn't say outsourced, but we have third-party management that runs most of our properties. Yeah. So in office, it's less than 5, like in the actual core office for the multifamily. And then on the multifamily schooled, because that's the brand for the school business, you got 2 salespeople, 1 setter guy, some multimedia people. So it's 5 or 6 there too.
So reason why I ask is Dan Martell, he talks about like buy back your time, all this stuff. What is your time spent on mostly right now?
Currently, looking at a lot of deals that are coming through the pipeline on the multifamily, having to still asset manage a few of our apartments right now that were caught in the midst of that rising interest rate environment. And we've saved some deals, man. I got to tell you, there's a couple times that deals could have easily gone back to the banks, and their syndicators losing their ass all over the place right now.
Absolutely.
And so we, thankfully, knock on wood, one of our deals in particular in Texas that we bought like at the peak of the multifamily market in end of 2021. And then here comes March 2022 and the interest rates go berserk. And that's all fine when you have a 4.25% interest rate that's variable. But when it goes from 4.25 to 9.5, right, and your debt service goes from $48,000 a month to $97,000 a month, and you're sitting there going, holy shit.
Yeah.
I knew at that moment, I said, we need to get the renovation done like yesterday. And I said, we need to get this thing refinanced into fixed rate debt like tomorrow. So I ended up moving out to the property.
Oh, wow.
For about a month and a half with the on-site renovation crews. Because they came in, I mean, these people, unfortunately, look, you got to manage people and you got to lead. And so they just weren't moving at a pace. So, and then they gave me all the excuses, right? Oh, I can't do this, can't do that. I'm like, okay, fine. I will show you how to do this. Because I'm a licensed GC. I will show you people how to do this. So I moved out to the property, lived in one of our model units, worked with the crews every single day. And I said, boom, 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 boom. We're going to get supply chain coming in here, coming here, coming here. We're going to get construction guys here. We got all the renovation done. Got it leased up to 98% occupied. Literally 7 days before the 10-year treasury went through the roof. And everybody knows how commercial real estate works. It bakes off the 10-year treasury for your loans. And got the loan closed 7 days before the interest rates went through the roof, even further, into fixed rate debt. Because if it didn't get done, it was going back to the bank.
Oh, man.
So I'm sitting there, I got $6.5 million of investor money on my shoulders, our money included, and it's got to get done. Because I said, I'm not letting this thing fail. I said, it's not going to fail. And we're going to make it happen. And we drove it right. Our loan brokers, literally, I shit you not, Javi, they were with Walker Dunlap. We got that thing done, and like a week later, they called me. They said, Justin, that was the greatest show we've ever seen in our life. I said, we have now used you as a case study to all of our operators who can't get their loans done. And we give them the advice, listen, you may need to move out to your properties and work on site with your teams to get the operations in line. So that way you can get the deals done. And like, of course, half of them say no, half of them say yes. But we use you as a case study because most people wouldn't do that.
Yeah. And I think there's a lesson there just in business of like, be willing to do what other people aren't, and you'll probably stay in business a little bit longer.
I just said, whatever it takes, man. I said, and the reason why it was so important, Javi, is because it was one of our first big multifamily deals, right? The other ones previous to that first big one were like 20, 30, 50, 60 unit deals. This was 121 units. So it was our first bigger one. And I said, make that work. I'm not letting this thing go. I said, I understand we got caught in the market. But I said, thank goodness it's our only one that's getting caught. Because I said, I know syndicators right now that are got 5 or 7 of these things, and they just can't get out of them, and they're bang, here's the keys. They're losing their ass. Money's going all over the place. Investors are losing their money. I mean, it's still going on. Yeah. And there's more coming.
Oh, for sure. So, and I mean, even one of our deals, like same thing. We luckily we weren't the operator that had to move out to on site, but almost very similar story. One of our deals. One of our other partners moved out to the property because our property management company just wasn't doing what they were supposed to be doing. And you had to like get everybody into shape, and luckily turned it around. And we're starting to see the fruits of that. But it was like a good 6-7 month process.
It's a dogfight.
Yeah, and that's business. You just have to like be willing to do things like that. So we're close to the end of the year. What would you say are some of like the biggest lessons you've learned in 2024?
Gosh, I wish I could have been prepared for this question. Don't ever give up. Don't ever give up. You don't lose if you don't quit. That's just good. Do not give up. Keep fighting through it, no matter how grim it can be or seem. Gratitude is everything. It's amazing how if you just try and, even if you have to fake it in your brain to keep a positive attitude, do your best to do it. Because you're going to get kicked in the you-know-what every single day. But having gratitude and trying to stay positive and never giving up and doing whatever it takes to get things through the finish line that you believe in is everything. Because it's amazing how if you stay the course and just as long as you believe in what you're trying to do, stay the course.
Yeah, I think that's super important, and just the mindset aspect, right? So like Kate will attest, like I probably show up just about the same every day, the same attitude, same mentality. But then I look at Ryan, who's like me times 30,000. Where like
in what way?
Dude's a machine.
Okay.
Like for between the hours of 9 to 5, he is the hardest worker in the entire building. Sure.
That's one thing I called him a ninja.
Yeah.
in a weird, because I was trying to figure this out actually a year ago when we were down in Cancun and I had the chance to mastermind a little bit with him. I was like, what is it about him that like is unique? And by the end of that 4-day thing down in Cancun, I came up with the reality he's like kind of like a ninja.
Yeah.
That he's very, very good at focusing his attention for a window of time to get very good at something. Because like he said, I sucked at golf, right? So what did I do? I got all the stuff in my house. I did this. I started training. I did this. But he windowed, like focused. And now he's like an incredible golfer, like scratch golfer.
Yeah.
And it could be coaching business. It could be the real estate business. But whatever it is, he silos his attention very, very well and like ninjas out and then gets very good at it. And then he can pull himself out, maybe insert others to do the day-to-day and then keep moving. But he moves fast too.
That's exactly correct. Like the guy can just block his time extremely well, even throughout the day, right? So I'll take today, for example. 9 a.m. call with everybody on the team, then straight to a sales meeting where we met, just like kind of got feedback from the coaching sales side, then right to the real estate sales team. Then he had filmed ads, then a podcast, then had another meeting with our Wealthy Kingdom team.
Yeah.
And he's on and like delivering stuff. Like I can't do that frequently, where it's like he is the one like pouring out and then also just like absorbing information. It's pretty impressive. And then now filming another podcast, and I'm sure he has another meeting afterwards. So very good at like being deliberate with his time.
Yeah,
Which
is hard.
It is hard.
It is. I mean, that is a skill set that is very, very unique.
Yeah,
and because a lot of people will get distracted in that process.
Yeah, I mean, even me, like there'll be times where I catch myself like looking at Instagram and I'm like, oh my gosh, like but that's also where for him, I think it stemmed from making a commitment to like being home by 5 every, and
so it's got to get done.
Yeah, so it has to get done. And granted, like we'll talk and he'll like send messages and text when he's home and stuff like that. But I know for the most part he's just being present with his family, and that's just whatever he. And so you have to get it done in this window.
Yep.
Otherwise, it's just not going to. It's going to have to wait until tomorrow.
Interesting.
Which is very interesting. Yeah, I respect it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
where do you see kind of the industry and the coaching space going?
Ooh.
I mean, because I mean, listen, I'm newer to it.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, it's changing a lot. Mm-hmm. And who knows if there's more coming or if it's just a cycle.
I think most of like the guru space is getting noisier, and a lot of people are also, going out of business. I know a lot of companies have made either major layoffs or have just gone out in this coaching space. And where I see it going, at least with us, and where we've pivoted and now we've seen a lot of success, is becoming a service provider. So if we can provide things that people already need, or offer additional things that we can affiliate for. We don't do too many affiliates anymore, but because we've just brought them all in-house.
Right.
Early, I'll let you and everybody else in, because by the time this podcast gets released, we'll be done. We're going into lending.
Okay.
So we're going to basically be the lender at this point.
Hard money lender?
Hard money lender. Yep. So wealthylending.com. We already bought the domain.
Nice.
And
crap, I was trying to get that yesterday.
I know. Sorry. Dude, we bought it for $1, which is crazy.
What?
Yeah, wealthylending.com.
Wealthylending.com was not taken?
Was $1. So that's our big win for. Yeah. So if we can be the lender, if we can be the lead provider, if we can be the CRM, the other deal finding software they need, and then coaching's just gravy.
Yep.
Like, then they won't
on the
leave.
deal finding software, because with multifamily, it's not as easy.
Yeah.
There's plenty of softwares out there in the single family space for lead gen. Yeah, and I think it's just because the multifamily game is still I call it a cowboy and cowgirl club still. Things are still kept close to the vest amongst brokers in the commercial space, and there isn't that nationwide MLS system per se. I mean, there's CoStar and a few other stuff out there, but not like a Zillow, a Trulia, Redfin, Realtor.com, even national MLS systems and stuff. So it's set up
tougher.
Yeah.
I mean, the way I look at it is just if there's anything that your client base already uses or will have to use by getting into this space, if you can either white label or be an affiliate for, that's how you, in my opinion, that's how you win.
Gotcha.
Because at the end of the day, unless you build a community, once they learn the information, they don't need you anymore.
Right.
And which is fine, and which is for us.
So you need something sticky.
Exactly. And the way we would keep people was we would throw the events. We had the masterminds, and people built community. People were doing deals together. And so that was how we would keep people previously. But that's when things get tight or when things aren't like whatever, that's not going to be enough for somebody to want to stay.
True.
But if they have all the softwares tied in,
then now they're sticky into it because they got to continue for the business.
If they're running their business, they have to use you. So that's where at least we are taking our coaching company to be like, the coaching will always be there, but now if you're doing deals, you're gonna be with us forever.
Gotcha.
So that's our big
goal.
And
listen, I know a ton of hard money guys, and even. I mean, they're getting sophisticated now too. You see the ones online. I think like backflip.com and a handful of other ones where they're streamlining the system of getting the hard money, right? And then you have your whole back end portal.
For sure.
Everything you're seeing, the whole process of the lending right there in the back end, which is super cool, right?
It is. But granted, we don't even have to have that because we have the community. We have, like, obviously we're going to make a great product and all that, but we don't have to have like the super crazy techie one-click thing because we already have the community base and they know, like, and trust us. So even if we like are archaic and we hop on a phone call with them, we're still going to be in really, really good shape.
Sure.
And I don't think the lending business will be a 7-figure business at least. But I don't think it's going to be like people aren't just going to come randomly online. They're going to come through like our community and then do deals.
Well, and it's more commoditized, right?
Exactly.
I mean, there's hard money lenders everywhere. And it's still relationship driven and speed and sourcing and delivering on that money. So there's always going to be the hard money guys out there, but I think that's a great service that you can add.
So we're excited. But as far as coaching goes too, people are like, oh, like the VSL's dead, like the video sales letter, like book a call funnels are dead. We just changed our offer and it's firing. So.
I'd have to push back on that. I mean, because we use a DM funnel. And the VSLs will still work. But we use a DM funnel right into a call booking.
Yeah, and I think it works well. We run these workshops. That's been crushing for us. 3 free webinars, sell a $97 workshop ticket, and then they come in and to a 3-day workshop.
For the $97?
They pay $97 to come to the 3-day workshop online. And then at the workshop, we sell our coaching.
Gotcha.
$1,000, $2,500, or $4,000, depending on which level you go with.
But don't you guys have like a all-star package or something like that?
Yep, $2,500 a month.
Oh, so you're doing monthly. Gotcha.
So everything's monthly.
Is there a problem with churn on that?
No, because they get
the sticky services.
Yeah, they get 100 leads a month. They get the CRM. So we're banking, and this is, I don't know. I mean, you're dealing with a slightly higher level of clientele, I would assume. How much capital do people typically
correct. So we won't. The way we have to pitch it to people, because in order for you to do multifamily, you have to have some capital in the game. So part of our qualifications are, hey, do you have $20,000 to $30,000 liquid right now that you could invest into a deal if you found it tomorrow?
Correct.
And if the answer is yes, I do, great, let's have a further conversation. If the answer is no, not right now, great, here's some free stuff for you. But we need you to have some capital available to you because you're going to syndicate. We're going to show you this game. And you're going to go have control of a $2 million multifamily building in 90 days or less. And we're going to show you how to do it. But you got to have some capital in it. Otherwise, you're not going to be able to attract capital. Because if I came to you, Javi, and I said, hey, I have this 20-unit apartment building in Kansas City, Missouri, and we got it locked and loaded, and you're like, great, I love the deal, Justin, love you, I think it's great. How much money are you putting in it? And if my response to you is, well, nothing.
Yeah.
You're going to be like, well, I'm not investing.
Yeah.
Right? And so it doesn't work. So that people need to understand that the game of zero money in, out of pocket for multifamily is just not that realistic.
Exactly. So. Yeah. See, like our qualification is if you have at least like $1,000 a month to spend,
gotcha.
you can get in. So there is a different clientele.
It's a different clientele.
But you know,
but it's highly lucrative. I mean, in terms of the people that are out there that either were in wholesaling or flipping, and they want to level up to the next game.
Yeah.
It's substantial. Like they're sitting there going, yeah, like I've been doing this, I've been doing well, making money, all this stuff, but I want to take short-term gains, which is 12 months or less, where they're getting hammered with taxes, and move it into long-term wealth, generational wealth, all that stuff they talk about, right?
For sure.
And that's where the multifamily benefits is in that space.
Yeah, I think it's great. Obviously, we do it. We have our fund, and so we'll raise for deals when we get them. Yeah. For us, it's just, hey, like let's get you from people. Typically, like we have a range, right? But the most successful people that I typically see, they're typically making, when they start, between 50, 60 grand a year to like 200.
Okay.
And that's a big range.
Yeah, so I mean, it's decent money depending on where you're at.
Yeah, right. And obviously that's why we have different levels of programs. And then they're just looking to go like get into real estate, start, and then scale up. And then eventually, like you said, once like what we coach, once you make $250,000 a year, at that point you can start thinking about rentals, or if you want to get into multifamily.
Yeah, and I loved, I think it was some video I saw that I even commented on. I think it was Ryan being ripped by some other person who was making fun of him about talking about, hey, you shouldn't be doing rentals. You need flipping houses to a certain amount of money and all that other stuff. And I'm like, listen, I don't know why you're ripping. Ryan makes a very good point. I mean, if you were going to put $100,000 into a single family rental property to earn $200 a month.
Yeah.
Why would you do that?
Even if it was $1,000 a month, like even if you were getting good cash flow, which doesn't really exist right now with just interest rates and stuff. But even in that situation, that's still not worth it. Would you trade $100,000 for $1,000 a month? It just doesn't.
Yeah, not if it's the only $100,000 you have.
My point. Yeah.
If it's the only $100K you have, you need to get velocity on that money.
Exactly.
Right? You need to turn that money faster, and then you can do more rentals. But you don't even need that much to get into the flipping game. I mean, you could take $50K and do another $50K into multifamily. I mean, you could do both. Yeah. But I guess
like $100K, like for most people have, if they have capital, typically in the flipping game, they probably got like 20 to 50, 60K to play around with.
Right.
And then, so yeah, it makes more sense to take that $30,000 and either put into a flip or put into marketing to go get some wholesale deals. Yep. And again, just get the cash flow going before you have to
because multifamily is incredible, but it is more capital intensive.
Yeah. And it's a longer term play.
It's a longer term play. I mean, you're getting money out the gate because of fees and all that other stuff. There's 5 to 8 different ways you're making money in multifamily. But it is more capital intensive. The money's going to sit there longer.
Yeah.
Take time to grow.
And like I said, I don't think you need in the beginning, like it just depends on where you're at financially. Like I think that's the biggest.
Yeah. But most people are not putting $100K into a rental.
Correct.
And getting $1,000 a month out of it.
Correct.
What Ryan was talking about was, hey, which is typical. I'm going to put $100,000 down payment or whatever it is into the single family rental, but it's only going to produce me $300 to $400 a month in net cash flow.
Exactly.
Now that's not a good return on your investment.
Correct.
You would be better taking the $100K in that specific scenario and flipping some houses.
Correct.
And then moving the money into long-term multifamily.
Yeah, it just depends on where you're at financially and whether or not you need to. If you need money tomorrow, you should be flipping and wholesaling.
Because I get that all the time. Like, oh, should I do multifamily or should I flip? And I said, honestly, both. Mm-hmm. I said, we do both. I said, we still flip houses, but I do that to turn money faster. And then we take that fast money and we move it into long-term.
100%.
So you do both, is the answer to your question.
And so what does 2025 look like for you? You can go business-wise first.
I know Javi wanted to talk personally here. Business-wise, that's that great of a podcast, huh, Kate?
Yeah.
So we want to get the community up to a minimum 100,000 a month consistently. Like we've hit it, but then it's the up and down game.
Fluctuates.
Right. So we want to hit that consistently.
What do you think the key is to do that consistently?
We've done a great job on the lead gen side. We need to do a better job at the sales closing process.
Do you know what your close rate is right now?
It's about 25 to 30%. So the close rate's fine. It's more of moving people from the ads into the setting and the show up rates of that process to get to the closing calls.
Got it.
Right. So we need more closing calls. So that's kind of an area that we're needing to improve because we're generating a good chunk of leads.
Do you know what percentage of your targeting is warm versus cold?
We're run retargeting ads.
Is that so?
I guess because we have a KPI tracker and all that stuff that we use, but I guess
one thing that we've learned is, because we used to run cold ads for Book a Call, and we would have appointment setters just cranking through those, and then, but the ROI wasn't as great. And one thing that's really helped us out over the last 2-3 months that we've just we run awareness campaigns for cold, meaning like low ticket stuff, and then once they've interacted with our stuff, then they get the Book a Call.
Gotcha. Okay, so you're doing low ticket to high ticket.
Yeah,
is that a Jason Wojo thing? I saw that.
Yeah,
it was a good podcast.
We've talked to Wojo about it before, and he does do that as well. And it's just through like trial and error too, because we've run all kinds of stuff. But it's once they've interacted with it, then they will see
the value.
Well, not the value, but then they will just be in our warm audience, and then they'll see the Book a Call stuff.
Gotcha.
So the majority of cold, actually, I think we're like 80-20 with our Book a Call campaign of warm audience for 20% cold. And that's done a lot better for us. Like our lead quality is
funny
really
you
good.
mentioned that because maybe it's been 3-4 months now. I'm trying to think. When we started the Tuesday live webinars.
I bet you that's been good.
It has been. So, and I'd say 80% of our closings recently have been from those people that came on the webinars. So we run a live Tuesday training. It's packed. I mean, in terms of like just value, they come in and it's me training them for an hour straight. And then, we'll say, hey, if you want to come on in and get some more information on some other stuff, blah, 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 and they'll book further in. But yeah, those Tuesday live, I mean, we're usually getting about 100 to 130 people registering, typically. And between 30 to 50, the last one was 51 people. It was like over 50% showed up.
That's a great show, right?
Yeah, it was like 30 to 51 will show up, and we'll have about between 7 to 10 people raise their hand for a call that will actually move further in. We just have to do a better job at, once that's there, to move them through to call, to book, to close. Because I think that, from what I'm seeing, the lead gen is pretty decent.
How do you guys, what's the call to action on the webinar? Are you just like, hey, book a call here on this link?
No, we'll get them all the way through all the informational process, tell them everything that's included in the program. We'll even drop the price.
There we go.
Everything. And tell them everything. And say, listen, it's not for everybody, but if you're interested in learning more, jump on an informational call and we'll discuss if it's the right fit for you and for everybody.
Got it.
But we'll give them everything by the end. But we give them all the information first. We train.
But my question is, do you have them click the link to then book a call?
Correct. Yes.
What we've done to get more people is we just have them put your number in host and
we do
panelist.
That too.
Yeah,
I do both.
I think that's
we say
out
name,
a lot.
email, phone number, and do it to the host and panelist privately. So we do that.
Yeah.
And then we also have the link to book. So I try and do both methods.
Yeah.
On that.
And how long is your sales team following up right away?
Well, they're usually evenings, so it's late sometimes, so they can't get to them until the next day sometimes because people won't answer. So that's a little bit of the.
Our sales team, they're like little
ninjas.
They're
little Ryan ninjas.
I was going to use a different term. I'm trying to think. They're like little piranhas just waiting for
I bet.
waiting for the leads to come in.
No, but speed to lead is everything, as we know. I think that's probably a bit of it because you do have the overnight thing that happens because it is evening webinars.
Yeah.
Which is probably why the show up rate's decent because it's after work and blah,
which
blah,
is
blah.
good. Yeah.
But then, if it is later in the evening, if we're doing a West Coast and they're East Coast, it's 10 p.m. for them. So they're done by then. Yeah,
that makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay, got it. So scale up the coaching. What else are you looking forward to?
Buying more multifamily. We want to take down at least another 600 to 700 units, 2 to 3 deals.
Does anything need to change in your organization to hit that?
No, I think now that we're starting to see things open up a little bit more in terms of lenders coming back to the table to finance better with better terms, I think you are going to see the interest rates adjust better. Cap rates have stopped rising. I mean, they were going through the roof, and then you had such a delta between what sellers could sell for or would sell for versus what the market is telling them to sell for. But there's still a lot of stress. I mean, you have a lot of syndicators, and I'm trying to figure out what's going on. I don't know if lenders are just holding on to a lot of this bad debt and just kicking the can further down, hoping and praying, and they don't want to kind of show their books because there's a lot of bad commercial debt out there, not just office, but multifamily. And I think my gut tells me they're just, even if the thing's not performing, you have a lot of non-performance loans. They're just hanging in there. Okay, guys, just try and make your payments, or try and do this, try and do that. And they're not like foreclosing on them.
Yeah.
Because if they were actually pulling the needle out and like literally pulling on them, you would see some serious stuff going down.
Why do you think they haven't pulled the needle on them? Is it just to?
I think the problem is so big, Javi. Like there are so many hundreds of billions of dollars in bad commercial debt that if they actually, it'd be like playing Jenga.
Yeah.
You pull the wrong one out, the tower's falling. And I think that they're just playing around and kind of like, okay, nobody's forcing us to do it, so let's just keep moving with the situation. They're paying the loans a little bit, they're performing a little bit, and they're just not killing everybody at one time, because I think the problem is a big problem. They need interest rates to start to drop again and cap rates to compress again. I will tell you this, by 2026, it's going to happen. So we have to get through the next 12 plus months, getting into the first quarter of 2026, and you're going to see a whole other game.
Wow.
You're going to see cap rates compress, rents are going to start to rise again, so they're trying to play that time game.
Yeah, just hold out for as long as they can.
Yeah, because then valuations change, and then they can get out of the deals, or things can happen, things can trade, but I think they're playing like, hey, we just need to hold on type mentality.
And then, okay, what? Any other business goals?
Got the education space,
More
multifamily. Probably flipping some more homes, man. I mean, it is on the business model in San Diego to flip some more homes. Not a ton. I mean, it's different there. You're dealing with $1 million plus homes.
Yeah. Are you in any specific areas, or is it pretty much all of San Diego?
Not all of San Diego, but I'm born and raised there, so I know most of the markets. As coastal as we can, but at the same time, those dollars go up.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, if we can acquire things between, let's call it $1 million to $1.5 million, and sell them for, $2 to $2.5.
That's great.
Yeah, like that's kind of the things where things still move and things are selling. So,
Yeah.
I mean, that would be nice to get some transactional money in there. And then we got Kate.
Yeah, we got Kate.
Hey, babe.
So yeah, personally, what's the next quarter look like? I won't even.
You wanted to bring it out. You want to bring it out? Because that's jokingly, that's how I kind of, last year when I went down to Cancun, and then Ryan was hit me up on the golf course trying to connect me with somebody else, and that didn't work out. But that somebody else ended up sharing my information with a certain special someone. So
yeah. So how has
next thing I know, we're doing a podcast.
Yeah, and then falling in love on a podcast.
There we go. Long story short, or short story long.
Yeah. Yeah, and so like how has that been? Like bouncing back and forth.
And she knows this, being completely authentic about it, is like at first I was like, oh man, like how do you do that? I mean, Vegas, San Diego, and all that stuff. What she didn't know at that time is my family has a long history here in Vegas. So my dad, going all the way back into the late, kind of mid to late 90s, had built a ton of stuff here.
Oh, interesting.
Like a lot of apartment complexes, tilt-up construction, like industrial. Like we've done a lot in Las Vegas. So I had been here a lot. Like he had a home here in Spanish Trails for some time, like back in the day. So all of that. And then, it's short flights, 38 minutes to be exact.
You've done it enough times. What's your favorite airline?
And we had to have talks about that pretty early on. Like, hey, I mean, if we're going to, we clearly like each other. That's not the problem. But like if we're gonna do this, like we have to have like this conversation of how does it even work, you know, and what would it or could it look like if it were to go that far. And so we've just come to the reality that we essentially would be a 2-family home, you know, and have both a home in Vegas and a home in San Diego.
So that's what's been the, so as of now, that's what it's going to look like, just bounce back and forth. No one's planning to migrate one way or the other?
Yeah, because I mean, I would do more of the bouncing per se.
Yeah.
That got weird.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Flight
because you know, my dad, funny enough, I mean, for almost over a decade, he would fly out 6 a.m. flight out of San Diego, be here at 7:15 in the morning, go to his office. He had his office here on Sahara. Work the week until Thursday afternoon, get back on a flight, and fly home for the weekend. Like for over 10 years.
That's crazy.
Did that. So I see how it obviously can be done. Thankfully, it's a short flight. I mean, if it were some long flight, probably a no. But given like that, and so yeah, like it's not, for me, it hasn't been a big of a deal.
Yeah.
To be honest with
and
you.
exactly, it's. I mean, people commute further in Vegas during traffic, so like.
Yeah, and I've gotten so good with the flight thing now. I don't even wait in like security lines. You just walk right through, and I literally show up 45 minutes for a flight, and I'm on. The other thing I didn't know was going to be so awesome is, and this is truth. You know, the heart grows fonder sometimes with some, you know, not distance but separation. And so sometimes when you have 7 or 10 days apart before you see each other, or 2 weeks apart.
That's the anticipation kind of builds up.
Yeah, I would say so.
I love that.
What do you think?
She said yeah.
She said yeah.
Like she's kind of shrugging her arms a little.
It was gonna work. Remember that?
Oh yeah, I bet. I was like, I don't know.
You
Like,
said, I think a few dates you gave it.
Oh,
Yeah.
wow.
yeah,
Here we are 9 months.
The
Yeah,
distance.
yeah. I was.
yeah,
yeah.
well, yeah, but of course, and the distance makes sense. I mean, it's not easy to do. You know.
So what's the hardest thing about dating Kate?
There's not really too many hard things about dating Kate. I would say, you know, our core values are, and this is why I tell her, I mean, and she agrees with this, that it's hard to find someone where your core values are in such alignment. You know, that's why I think we're both willing
And
to.
I want to talk about that really quick. So I think the way Kate probably brought it up is different than what most people would, how they would bring up like the core value conversation. Actually, if I had to guess, Kate was like, "Well, what are your core values?" is that accurate? Or
Tell me about everything.
Yeah.
Let's have a deep discussion right now. Kind of, yeah.
Yeah.
In a way. But I've had time to like put those in mind. And I said, well, honestly, number one, Kate, is freedom. Like my number one core value is freedom.
Define what freedom means to you.
Freedom of choice, freedom of travel, freedom of speech, freedom of religion, like freedom for all, like is like my number one. So even though I may not agree with certain people's choices, like you should have the freedom to make those choices.
Sure.
So that's number one. Integrity and reliability is number 2 and 3. You know, family is like a big thing for me. So those are, I mean, and kind of where we're at and where we want to go, and visions for where we're at and where we want to go in life, and like having a partnership and not a dependentship, I would say. You know, I definitely want somebody that you can kind of do life with and not separate business from personal. I kind of want to blend those a little bit. Maybe not necessarily work together, but like be able
Why
to
not?
share.
Just kidding. I'm kidding.
I mean, some people do it well, some people it implodes.
Okay,
It
yeah.
just depends.
Yeah.
Some people can work together really well.
Yeah.
And then some people, they work together and that ends that relationship.
Yeah, no,
So
I know my wife and I we would not work together.
Yeah.
Like, for sure.
It,
But-
just it totally depends on how that dynamic. But I guess feeling like you can bring your family along for the ride.
for sure.
And you don't have to separate, hey, I'm going to work and when I come home, I'm not going to try and blend the work environment. Because especially if you're in an industry where you're trying to build a personal brand and profile and all these things, you know, they're going to have to be involved in that because they're going to see you everywhere. It's not like you're trying to hide and you're just a hermit in a cubicle job.
Yeah.
So because of that, you have to be willing. If you're going to be traveling, let's say you're going to speak on a stage, or if you're going to go to events and conferences and stuff like that. If you're going to not bring your family along for any of that, then you're going to be alone a lot, and then that's probably going to cause a problem.
And it's also nice to be around somebody who gets it too,
Sure.
right? Like who understands what like. Here's another question: like, how much of like work do you like talk about with Kate?
I mean, when we go out on dates and stuff like that, not that much. I mean, maybe 20% of the conversation is maybe some work stuff, but then I try and be personal and talk personal stuff and not work stuff. But it's always going to come up.
Yeah, for
you
sure.
know, especially when you're like when Kate's looking at Instagram reels and looking at people's things and dissecting their content, engagement, likes, and this.
You should do this.
Yeah, 'cause she's in the space that helps people grow their personal brands and do all that stuff. So she's going to obviously look at that a lot. So. But I do tell her to turn her phone at least upside down on the table.
We talk about work way more than 20%.
I don't think so. You think not at like a date night?
Oh no, I mean I'm not even talking about date nights because date nights are a little different. I'm just talking about like when you're like hanging out, like whatever. Because I know for me.
Okay, so if you add all that, maybe half the time.
Yeah. You know, like the downtime. Because I think like for me at least, it's nice because Sam understands kind of like the work environment. She knows who people are. So like if I come home and I just kind of like, oh, like this, like what'd you do today?
You have to vent a little bit. Yeah.
Yeah, you know, like a little bit of venting, but it's mostly positive.
Kate was such a pain in the ass.
No, I've never said that about Kate. Just other people at the office. I'm just kidding. No, like one thing I respect about Kate is like people are definitely open up to her, just like at work and stuff like that too. I think she's always been good at that.
Yeah. She's very good at getting people to open up. Like, I listen to her podcast, people she talks to, people she's interviewing. I mean, it's wild. Like, these are people that are like closed off.
Yeah.
And you couldn't get a moment of vulnerability out of them. Next thing you know, 30 minutes later, they're crying on the video with Kate. I'm like, what in the world's going on over here?
Yeah.
Like
what advice do you have to somebody? So you both are divorced, and then so what advice do you have to people like getting back into the dating game and also are like yourself, just entrepreneurial? Like, what challenges did you overcome?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I've been divorced over 5 years now, or about 5 years now. Dated and stuff in between there. I would say you have to get clear on what you're truly looking for. So I actually wrote it down, which I think she was shocked about. I mean, I had a list, because I.
Oh, she probably loved that.
I think it was out of frustration because you'd go on dates and meet people and do things, and you're like, So then you finally got to get clear. I think that was number one. I think number two was realizing I'm not out there trying to find someone to fulfill me. Like, I'm going to become the best version of me first, and then my spouse partner is going to come in and just add value to that life, and not try and fulfill that life. Because if you're out there seeking validation from your partner like that, or if you're out there thinking somehow, I'm going to go find the perfect person. No. You become the perfect person first for you. And then you'll attract that perfect person. Like, just go do you, be the best version of you first. You'll attract that person you're looking for by you being the best version of you.
Absolutely. And I think most people miss that part where they're like, I'm going to go find a man or find a woman, whatever. But if you just become the type of person that somebody wants to date, like that,
but then you're running around with all this baggage or issues that you haven't
addressed.
You haven't addressed. You haven't maybe gone through therapy, figured this stuff out, solved some personal problems that you need to, some limiting belief systems maybe, or, heck, attachment styles, which I had no idea about, that I had to learn about.
Did you go to therapy?
I did.
What was that experience like? What did you kind of walk away with?
I learned so much about, and it's been about a year and a half, 2 years now.
Okay.
And still use it, but yeah, I learned about attachment styles, which I had no idea about, which is apparently causing a lot of problems for me. The difference between how men and women process emotion, and the importance of the masculine and feminine in the relationship.
Yeah.
Like the critical importance of the masculine and feminine in the relationship. I can't even stress that enough. And it's because a lot of men aren't explained this or taught this the right way. that they get lost sometimes in the happy wife, happy life scenario. And it's actually it's going to kill your relationship. You might realize it.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people using that thought, like the happy wife, happy life, they just become a lot more like subservient to their wife versus
Correct.
Obviously, like I want to make my wife as happy as possible, and I want
Sure.
to like serve her and do that, but there's a fine line between like having her make all the decisions and then having her operate in her masculine.
Having your wife or spouse make the decisions about where you're going for dinner or all these kind of little nuance, you're creating a massive amount of anxiety for her. Like you need to lead the ship and drive the ship, and then she'll trust me, she'll make her voice heard if she doesn't like it. But you go ahead and lead the ship and allow that to happen, right? Versus you like, oh, where do you want to go? And like playing the timid role. Yeah. Because that masculine and feminine is going to get out of whack real quick. And then men make the massive mistake, and I'm completely guilty of it, until you try and solve all the girl's problems.
Oh, yeah.
Biggest mistake you'll ever make is trying to solve your wife or spouse's problems.
Yeah. And so like I don't even do it anymore. I've given up.
No, our job, and I didn't understand this until the therapy and everything I've done. Like, our job is to listen and provide a safe environment for call it like the cylinder of emotions, to allow her to go through those emotions, provide emotional intimacy, and just listen in, and she'll actually solve her own problems. Yeah. Once she goes through it, but you just need to be like my therapist gave me the analogy of you need to be the shoreline against the waves. So if you think of like a shore, right?
That's interesting.
Shore doesn't move, right? It may have maybe rocky one day, sand the next day, right? Storms come in, sometimes it's calm, like the waves, right? But the waves come at different wavelengths, different heights, or storms, sometimes calm. So that's kind of the female.
Yeah,
right?
That's a great analogy.
And then the male's got to be the shore.
Yeah.
Like you're a rock, you're not moving, you may adjust a bit, but you need to be there. And then if you can create that, then it's going to provide emotional safety for her, and she's going to feel provided and protected for her. And that's like hands down, like the best thing you could do.
Yeah, no, that's a great analogy. I'm gonna keep that.
And Javi's stealing it.
Yeah,
that was probably the biggest things I learned over the last couple of years. And then just realizing that, listen, you got to stop trying to search for the perfect person. You become the perfect person. And he said, he's like, listen, man, what happens when you chase butterflies? They all go fly away. He says, what happens when you build a beautiful garden? They all come and play. So he says, go build a beautiful garden. You be the best version of you first.
And then you get a lot of butterflies.
You'll attract everything, but you'll attract everything in that, you're putting out, right? The energy and the environment, all the stuff. You'll attract that in, and that helped me understand things, because I think I was chasing too much and not attracting.
Yep, that makes sense.
And making the mistake that a lot of men make. So.
Yeah, and that's huge. And now pivoting to the kids, because I'm thinking about this a lot. So are there things that you really focus on and hoping that your kids will get these qualities? What do you really focus on as a parent?
Be a leader, because I always tell my kids, especially if they're at school and they're getting into mischief, or kids do things and they all kind of get in that group think and start doing things together. I said, Brody's my son. I said, be a leader. I said, are you a leader today, or are you just following suit? I said, you said this other kid did this, but then you did it too. I said, you could have maybe just not done it and been a leader about it. So having them be a leader, I think,
and that's good,
and not a follower.
Tell them about Brody's presentation.
Oh, Brody's presentation.
Yeah. So my son comes to me last week or a couple weeks ago and says, Dad, listen, I want this e-bike. It's like $2,100 or whatever it is. And, will you buy it for me? And I said, okay. I said, I will pay for half. And he says, I just need to come up with the other half. I said, yeah. I said, but he's like, I don't have the money. I said, well, here's what we're going to do. I said, I want you to come up with a business proposal on ways that you can make money, and I want you to present it. So he put together literally a little PowerPoint presentation. How old is he? He's 10.
Love it.
He's going to create Brody's bikes and washes. So he's going to wash people's cars and bikes.
There we go.
And earn money. And I said, if you can figure out a way and just get the momentum going for earning money, then I said, I'll find a way to pay for the other half. He's like, so then, this is so funny. this last week he comes to me and says, Dad, so I found this other e-bike. It's half the price. So it's not $2,100. It's only $1,000. Yeah. So he's like, you said you'd pay for half. So that's $1,000. So you just pay for the whole thing now? I said, Brody, you're missing the point. I said, it has nothing to do with the money. I said, I'm trying
If you find a good deal, the money will come.
Right? Find a good deal. Jeez, Javi, you're making me eat my own words. I know. But I told him, I said, listen, I want to see you earn it a little bit.
Yeah.
So I said, and it's not even the money side of it. I said, update it and let's get to work. Mm-hmm. So he's on that, but he gets frustrated, but he's understanding, and I got the kids on these green light cards. So these are little and anybody knows what this is, you'll love it. But if you don't, you need to get it. So it's a green light card. It's like a debit card for the kids. Okay. But you get to set up their allowance. You get to set up, hey, money's going in, how much they get to save, spend, and give. And they get to understand budgeting, and they can actually invest with that money too. And it's all on their little green light card.
That's cool.
And so now when they're like, hey, can I buy this? I said, how much do you have on your green light card? I have $7. Great, here you go. Because you can spend this, and this has to be saved, but this is spent. So they're learning kind of the money and the budgeting, because most kids don't have any concept.
Huge.
So I'm trying to get them to understand, like, dude, yeah, it does cost some money, but you need to understand you have $10, okay, 3 goes here, 7 goes here. Mm-hmm. So
that's good.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's like what you're mentioning too is one thing that like I just hear a lot, read a lot. It's just like, how do you create controlled adversity for your kid, right? Because a lot of kids that aren't well prepared, just from what I see, it's because like they were just too well taken care of, and they never had adversity, right? And so like, how do you create an environment? Because again, your kids are probably, just because you have good income coming in, like they're probably well taken care of. So how do you create that when it's tough to build?
Yeah, listen, my dad always taught me the value of hard work and the value of a dollar. Mm-hmm. And he was kind of like our transitional character in our family, where he came from nothing, grew it, became self-made millionaire. But always taught us the value of a dollar, man. I will never forget this, Javi. Mm-hmm. It's still in my brain because it's that burnt. So he built an apartment complex called Los Cabos in northwest Las Vegas. And it is August. And I'm out there with my friend, because the way that it works is, it gets so hot here, as you know. So we'll wake up at midnight. We will go to the job site, and we're done by like 8 a.m., right? So you work through the night, and then it's cold.
What were you doing?
Sweeping underground garages, installing washer dryers. I mean, all the crap work, like literally the grunt crap work. It's just running around doing nothing just so he could watch us work. I'll never forget this. He drives in his little S10 or his little S-Class Mercedes one day, like straight out of like Gestapo stuff, rolls down his window. He's got the AC blazing. He's got smooth jazz playing on his Mercedes, and he looks over at us, takes off his aviator glasses, and he looks at me and my buddy Seth. He's like, "You guys enjoying this?" And we're just like covered in soot. Yeah. And of course we look miserable. We're like, "Oh my God, this is like the worst thing ever." He's like, "You need to go to college," and then he just drives off.
That's a lesson.
And I'll never forget it, clearly. It's still like, and it just taught me the value of hard work, the value of a dollar. You got to earn it. Nothing just comes, man, unless you're winning the lotto or
for sure
you're a trust fund kid. So
yeah, and even then, like that's my point. It's just like with these kids who are well taken care of, how do you create that adversity?
Have them make their bed every morning. It's just a simple thing, right? Make their bed every morning. Right, and they'll bitch and complain the whole way through it, but it's not the point. Yeah, you're having them complete a task first thing in the morning, and then now Kate's teaching me some things like have them make their own lunches. Yeah,
So I actually saw this. It was a 75-year study that Harvard Business did on kids, and they said statistically, I think it was like 78% of the kids like who made their bed, did chores like consistently were. I don't know what the percentage points was, but they were just wildly more successful.
Probably.
Than the kids that just didn't do active
because
chores.
in that you learn a little bit of discipline.
Yeah.
Right, and consistency and discipline, which is critical to anything. Right, no matter what position or job or career path you take, is consistency and discipline.
So if you were to leave the earth tomorrow, what's one thing you'd want your kids to know?
That I did whatever it took, and I gave everything I had. Because I always tell people, they ask me, what's your biggest fear? And I say, honestly, like being on my deathbed at 80 years old, having to have a conversation with my 40-year-old self and having to tell that 40-year-old self, I'm sorry. Like, I'm sorry I didn't go for it, dude. Like, I'm sorry I didn't give it my all. I'm sorry I was scared or fearful, and I didn't, like, go for it. And I sat back on my loins and just was average.
What would you tell your kids? That's about you.
Got to go for it.
Yeah.
Yeah, do whatever it takes and go for it. And you got one shot at this life. If you want something, you got to go get it, because no one's coming to save your ass. No one's coming to give it to you. You got to go get it.
That's huge. And especially like that, that's one thing that's always like I keep on hearing in my head. It's like no one's going to come save you.
No one's coming to save you, man.
And so you just got to figure it out.
Yeah, and it's a painful reality, but once you come to that reality, it's kind of sobering. You're like, shit, like, wait, I'm not entitled? This isn't just going to happen. It's not just going to show up. And then as you get further in life, right? You know, now I'm in middle age. You're like, yeah, man, like you have less days now than you do before. You got to go, you know? So
I think there's freedom in that though.
If you are just open about it and you absorb it and say, yeah, man, this is the way it is. You got to go. And just do everything you can to make the best of it. Give back. I mean, that would be another thing I'd tell them is give back, be generous, and the law of reciprocity pays itself dividends. You know, that's why we created the podcast Abundance to Give, right? It was to interview even super successful entrepreneurs like yourself, but not so much about like, hey, how did you become successful? Like that comes out. It's more about, hey, how has giving, helping others, created abundance in your life?
For sure. Yeah. The more that I give, whether it be time or finances, like this year is really the first year that I really started giving, like to the church and to other things, and my life has transformed dramatically over this last year.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think just generosity in general. If there's one thing, I think a generous heart is the one that's going to be successful, period.
Big time. I mean, if you talk to any of the major players and people that have been successful, you'll notice there's a common theme. Most of them find a way to give back, leave a legacy, and help others.
Yeah.
Because it pays itself 10x.
For sure. Well, Justin, where can people find out more about you?
Online, as Kate would say, official Justin Brennan. Go to the Instagram feed.
Yep.
Yeah, they can go online, follow me on official Justin Brennan on Instagram, and yeah, I'd love to be a resource to anybody that's just wanting to learn.
Love it. Cool, guys. Peace. What'd you think?
That was awesome.
Yeah, it was fun.
Yeah.